take the pressure of the pre-applause. All right, my name is Rob Hudson. I work for Hilton, and I'm technically a technical analyst, but I tell everyone I'm an anim analyst because amateur animation anthropomorphic. Ooh, I got the acronym wrong, but you'll see what happens. All right. So I spend a lot of my day answering this question, right? Simple questions about what we do. Hotel operations is very complicated. I often have to explain it to people, and then they're not children, but there's so many people and such a variety of people that I have trouble. So I have to think like this. And I actually gave a presentation similar to this for my daughter's 4th grade class, and they understood it, so no pressure on the audience today to follow through. So I have a friend, and he works in IT like many of us do, and he does something with treadmills, and he asked me to help him explain what this company does. And people alone can't explain things. I can't, maybe someone can. I'm sure there's a better speaker somewhere. You still have time? We have the folks in our product division that speak in riddles. I don't understand their words. They often speak of leveraging synergies. That's incomprehensible to me. We have folks like my friend, very smart, works in logistics. He spent his summer orchestrating high-speed home deliveries with shipping logistics APIs. Now, we know what some of those words mean, right? But they're just words. Oh, is this actually talking? Fantastic. All right. So when we lose the words, we switch to diagrams. Who uses diagrams here? Keep your hand up if you use sequence diagrams. No? Oh, I thought I'd have a crowd of that. Okay. So we tend to explain complicated things with those swim lanes and arrows that go everywhere, right? Sometimes we start with a hand-drawn diagram, and this makes sense to people that are drawing it, I think. Maybe the full We have pods and 5 to 7 member teams, and if you're highly engaged in a conversation, you can see, okay, well, there's something here. Little truck makes sense to me. This has to do with delivering customers. Is probably customer. Tread might be a fancy name for a treadmill company, but more than likely, your acronyms at your company don't make any sense, like mine don't, beyond the hotel part. So we're stuck with this. We kind of wonder what this does, and if you're a developer, you might have to use this thing, right? If you're an analyst, you might have to figure out what all the parts are. If you're a project manager, you're kind of screwed. So every one of these things might belong to a different department, a different area. Data might flow around them, right? And then we get to the sequence diagram. I was hoping more you've seen this. If you haven't, count yourself fortunate, right? We're just going to explain how data flows between two things, right? Customer's going to talk to the shipping company. Is going to talk to the orchestrator. What's that? The scheduling company. There's a little truck. There's some acronym. And the dashboard, I don't know what that means, but probably we have dashboards, right? Most of the ones we have could use some work, right? Then you scroll a little bit. And maybe if you're a dev, you're thinking, man, I either want to call my recruiter or look at the code. But he gets his bonus after 30 days, and he's kicking back half of that to me, so I should probably keep going, and then again, right? And again. And some of the words make sense, but by this point, I've lost track of things. Maybe there's better devs than I am. My buddy swears that he understands this stuff and that people understand it. I struggle with it, right? This is what I do in a meeting, and I'm thinking, all right, I was a programmer once. I'm an analyst now. I have to pretend like I understand things, but most of the time, I'll think, there's got to be a better way. And I thought, this will be easy, right? I'm a guy that knows how to figure stuff out. I'll just animate this thing, because that looks really cool when you're done. It looks really simple. How many people oversimplify programming stuff? Everybody, right? How many times, has anyone had the experience of someone showing you a spreadsheet and asking you just to make that on the screen? Anybody from my old school? Yeah. And it's hard to explain why you can't just do that. So I started down the road of figuring out how to animate stuff, right? Flipbook animation is pretty common. It looks really easy and really cool, right? But you have to do all those little pictures. And there's tools to do them, there's techniques, but at the end of the day, you're making 1,000 of the same thing with a slight variation, and I gave up pretty quickly. I quit easily, right? Down the road a little more, everyone said After Effects is what you want to use. For 2D animation, After Effects, and I started looking at this, and man,
it's a lot of widgets.
It's a lot of widgets. There's timelines and thingies, and I was thinking, I have to learn all the words first, and then what they do. This is tricky. Then I thought, okay, I can go with a cop out of it's open source. You can't pay for an Adobe product, right? So forget that, right? Down the road again, Blender. It's just horrifying. And there's that person on Reddit who says, oh, of course, I do 2D animation in Blender. You can do that, right? I could use a hammer to put a screw on my wall. And I thought, oh my God. I'm never going to do this. And I've been making promises all along. This is so easy. I'll just animate this. And I got really timed up, and I'm thinking, what next? Okay. And I found a website. It looked a little more simple than Blender and After Effects, called SVGator. It was kind of cool. But again, it had little widgety things. And does anyone raise your hand if you've got if you've used a web application for graphic design that's worked consistently well? All right, I'll talk to you afterwards because maybe I need to switch tools. Right? And I thought, oh, I'll just do programming because that's easy, right? I thought maybe I can make it easy. This is the first thing that I could figure out that I could actually use. Now there's some weird syntax. If you're not a developer here, you're thinking, man, this guy's nuts. It's not easy. He's just stuck it all in his brain. He's learned it. I'll maybe prove you wrong, maybe not. So about that treadmill thing, right? Let me make sure. The first thing I realized is if I'm going to make animations, I have to have some actors. And then I realized it's very problematic. My goodness, there's so many shapes, sizes, and varieties of people. Which one do you use? And I asked all my tech writing friends, I asked everybody in the world, what do you do? How do you pick a person? What's the person to use? What variety of person? What do you do? And I thought, man, this could really hang me up. And it did for about 5 months because I overanalyzed things. I thought, well, the answer clearly is right. Anthropomorphism. I will use animals that are not gendered. That's the personality. And it'll be great. And then people started thinking, well, I don't know what that means. Why is the panda painting his eyelashes? But this avoids a big problem you're going to have with a universal audience, right? So going from there, maybe I should just go into the demo, because I think I'm going to go off track again. But I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to handle this treadmill problem. And the first thing I would do is have many files on the screen for you to see. So we need that demo. Let's start with this. So with SVGator, not SVGator, sorry, GSAP, which is the Greenstock animation platform, you can do everything in HTML with a tiny bit of code. So let's sort of think about that. But the first thing we're going to do is we have to sort of set up our template, right? We have to set up our, let's hope this is the one. Let me close open. All right, I'm using a terrific program called Inkscape, which is open source. That is one of the best things it's got going for it is it's free, but we know how that goes, right? It is capable of being used for things. And I've got kind of an affinity towards it, but I think I've got some bias about it too, because all the things seem really intuitive now, and they're really not. But the first step in these things, the easiest way to start is to pick a nice rectangle that looks good on the screen, right? Call it a canvas. If you start to do SVG animation, I'll explain SVGs, I don't think I did. As soon as you start to throw graphics out there to do things with, it's better to have them stuck in a nice rectangle. Otherwise, things fly everywhere, right? Just take my word for it. And then we're going to have some pictures we're going to stick in this thing. I'll talk about that. So what I do is I make a canvas, put all the people on it, or things on it, anthropomorphic things, right? And then, so let me see, let me give me some bigger icons here. Thank you, Windows. All right, so we've got a customer. I don't know why it shows a pig. I think he looked kind of nice and kind. Looked like he would like a treadmill, or maybe tone up the loins a little bit. I don't know. In hindsight, maybe a poor choice. Regardless, the pig is going to pay for a treadmill. Now, the developers here are going to ask how that's possible. I'm going to ignore that question for now. Let's just assume the pig can do this. Now, if I'm picky, I can say, you know, first of all, I should say these are SVGs, and all that means to me is that they're vectors, which means that you can scale them big and small, and they don't look awful when you get big and small. So if things come in weird sizes, we can make them the right size. The one thing I'll do here, let me name the pig. You'll have to take for granted that all this stuff shows up on your screen. So one of the things that we do here, we have our resources. If you're familiar with HTML, you give names to things. I'm just going to call this pig. I don't know if you can read that, but it says pig. I'll have it so. Call this money. The pig is going to pay some money, right? The abstractions are something I have a challenge with. A lot of folks don't super get that. But we also have a treadmill. That's pretty important, right? Because he's going to be buying that. And what else do we have? Truck's probably important. Let's do a web browser. He's got to buy his treadmill, right? And let's see what else we have. We have a. Did I miss my factory? My goodness. Gotta have that somewhere. You know what? Doesn't really matter. We can use. Let me find something. I'm gonna cheat here and draw a box. I hate to do this because I had a nice building. You gotta trust me. Let's call this factory. Store, I don't know. Naming stuff is crazy too. All right. The other thing we might have in this situation is an email receipt. That sounds right, right? We'll call that email. Now I'm going to rush through this demo and all this stuff, and my alternative was to go through every single nitty-gritty thing. I don't know the best way to learn, but we'll at least have something done when we're done. You can hit me up with questions. So pig, treadmill, money, email receipt. I'm going to put all these things on top, right? Now in real life, we might stick them back behind here so they sort of appear, right? Money comes out of wherever it comes out of a pig. Email, I don't know how that works. I never did. I was a web developer. Didn't set up an SMTP server today, if that's what it's called. Saved my life, but it's there. The best part of it being an analyst is you don't have to really understand how things actually work at the bottom level. But it's just going to challenge me today. All right, so first step in this is we set up all our thingies, right? The pig, the web browser, the factory, the treadmill. The pig is going to buy the treadmill. That much I figured out from what my friend was saying. That somebody could buy a treadmill, and then it gets to the person, right? Which is fine, right? Sometimes we need to set up and just start with the simple things. The joke used to be, so those folks in marketing know what we're talking about. But they're doing pretty complicated analytics where we are, so I can't make that joke anymore at work. They talk about the folks in development. And I resemble that now. So, how are we going to get the money from the pig to the web browser? Now, you know, money doesn't really go into the web browser as far as I know, but things might have changed in 40 years since I did development. But we'll just make a little line here, right? And there's a little red line. I'm going to call that something special. I'm going to call that motion. Let's call it motion money, all right? So, then I would like this email receipt to go back to the pig. So we'll make a line that goes back. It's important you draw the line the right way for this particular example, so we'll call it motion email, and the treadmill will start over here, I think, right? Now, at some point, money is probably going to have to go to the company, right? So I'm going to draw a line for that. I'm going to pretend the money's here already. That's roughly where it's going to land. And I'll draw that over there, and we'll call that motion. Someone's going to have to remember all these little things for me. All right. And then at the end of the day, if everything works, the treadmill will go right to the pig. And we'll call that motion treadmill, right? All right. So now that you've got this canvas drawn, we can load it into an Automagic web page. You can also do this in the code pen, but this is what I have today, so that's what we'll do. I'll walk through the website thing, or the web part of it. I've cheated a little bit, and I have a little web server started. Oops, forget about that. So this isn't too hard to do. From almost any command line, I did this on a Mac. And if I can do it on the Mac, you can do it anywhere else. Set up a little web server, which just basically makes this able to work. And let's see, I think I called it treadmill demo. Oops, that's already done. Let's do the one we didn't do yet. Nope, not that one. Wow, I'm really doing great today. Why did I do that? Anyway, we'll find this. No stress. All right, so let me see. Why do we have stuff in here? Oh, we have stuff in here because I put stuff in here. All right. I actually cheated last night, and I was going to make it already done and just wave my hands and lock the thing and show you that it was done. And today I decided to actually do it, so I think it's actually working. So this is called treadmill demo. And what this is, this looks like the stuff that I just drew, doesn't it? Yeah. All right, good. All right. Let's make some things move. One thing you'll notice, the rectangle on the screen is the same proportion as the rectangle that I drew with. To keep it really simple, we keep it, this is a 4x3. When I started messing with stuff and using arbitrary size things, one of the things about SVG graphics is that they are really gnarly when it comes to moving stuff around and translating numbers and things like that. But I don't like to have to worry about that, so I make everything sort of the same. And I'll show you start to build out the animation part. So there's this giant set of scrolling code. And I always hate it when people do this in demos, right? They walk through code and you're like, man, I'm going to ask you to suspend your disbelief and take for granted that all this stuff is just here and you don't need to worry about it, right? We'll see if that's true. All you have to do, right, is go down all the way to the little thing I call main. And if you use this magic template, which I promised to upload after the conference, there's just a couple of things we do to get some simple motion out, right? Simple. So one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to make a little variable here to represent the thingies that I made in my Inkscape drawing. So if you look at what the pig was called, I called him pig. Let's call him customer. That's nicer, right? Yes. So let's see. So make a variable called the customer. I called him customer there. So let me call him the same thing. All right. And then we have, let's say we have money, right? A little guy. He's called money. All right. All right. And then we have that. So we have two of the things set up in our HTML to resemble what's on the screen. Now let's do the motion part. Let's move the money to the web browser. I called that motion email, right? So we'll do a motion path. I'm using funny words, but I've really abstracted this down to just simple moving stuff. All right. A motion email. All right. All right. So now we have a customer. We have our money. We have our red thingy. And the reason I'm drawing this on now, I'll eventually erase that so I can see what I'm doing. I'm not really good at seeing invisible lines. Maybe in my 20s. These days I need to have lines on the screen. So the magic here, I will show you the code and then the easy part. So when you use GSAP, which is a library, actually doing this kind of motion is really tricky. There's all kinds of silly like parameters and stuff, aligning things in the center. This is all the stuff that put me off animation to begin with. Once I figured it out with the help of a really jerky AI, I realized I could abstract it. I'll save my history of AIs for an emotional support session later. I think let's use ChatGPT and gotten frustrated. No? All right. I'm in a good crowd. Okay. But I made this a nice function. And now TL, one of the concepts here in GSAP is you have a timeline. I'm not going to go too crazy with that because that got me very confused, but things go on a timeline and then they happen. We'll just assume that everything's sequential, nothing happens at the same time. Very easy stuff, right? So all I have to do is make the money go on the motion path, called motion email, so it'll travel along that path. And then I want to do it for 1 second. All right, let's cross our fingers. How many magic words like I gave with the kids? We'll try it out. All right. Oh, that went backwards. We have motion, right? That's meaningful to me.
You want motion money instead of motion email. That's right.
Thank you. Now the live debugging session is successful. That was also the refund case. Everyone knows it doesn't happen that quickly, right? You'll get store credit. All right. There we go. And it went sort of to the right place. And we can continue with that. We can make, oops, I should call that motion money, huh? That's a good catch by the real programmer probably, right? Just a coder. All right, so then we do another one of these that happens sequentially because I'm just telling you it does. And we'll make motion email. And that one will go back. Oops. Me and mine. Okay. We want the email to move, right? And that's, oh, I didn't do email yet. What do we think that's called? The kids would all say it's called email, but I'd be like, you're not a programmer. You work for my company, it would be called something with an acronym. G8-1 is more likely. And the children say, do you like what you do? And I say, I like this part of it. It's not what I get paid for. Sure. My daughter thinks I'm an animator. And I really just type stuff and write acronym definitions in Confluence. That's my real job.
You gotta change one. You gotta change your line.
Oh, what did I do?
109.
2 lines.
All right, thank you again. I'm going to claim nerves and also claim my
Still not on Great selector.
What did I do? Oh, boy. How about that? See how easy this is when you have 50 people here. This is the best pair programming experience I've ever had in my life. Oh, how about that?
Whoa.
Well, that was crazy. Why did that go like that? There's probably a good reason for that. Could be the one. Well, the one's the duration, though, huh? That's a good guess. We'll change. Okay, start with previous. Huh. Well, I guess I did something wrong. Regardless, it's really nice when you get a confirmation while you're still paying. So let's just assume that happened. Now I really want to debug this and go nuts, but we only have a few minutes left, right? 10 minutes, is that right? 20, all right. Yeah, we have plenty of time to be painful. All right, so let me see here. Anyone know a good song? I'll distract the audience. Okay. All right, well, we'll just end them two for now. I'm going to take this out, see if something bad happens. This is always good during live coding to take stuff out, right? There we go. Hey, all right. I should make a note, right, the to do, and hope my editor remembers what that is. This janky version of whatever notepad variant I have. 96. No, I'm sure I'll remember that later. This isn't production code, right? Okay. So we can move along, and the next thing that'll happen is, well, let's jump ahead, right? We need to pay the money. Where's the money path? So the money needs to go on the motion store path, right? The money's going to go somewhere else. Now we know the money travels right. Let's make another one of these. Oop, I don't need one of those. I kind of want to keep typing stuff wrong so you all correct me and feel good about something. And write it down on the survey. This guy talked for free and he was lousy. So bad. All right. Now we want money to move on motion store. It seems to make less sense. Look a lot more intuitive. Okay. We're going to pretend I don't have any errors. I'm going to take a chance that I didn't screw up. Who wants to roll the dice? Anyone think I'll have errors? Be honest. All right. Oh, man, you guys are great. Folks are great. Oh, there he goes. Hey, all right. The last thing we need to do, by this point, why is it called treadmill 2? I know why. I bet something terrible is going to happen. There's a treadmill 1 and I try and move that somewhere. Lots of stuff's going to happen. But this is about motion, not accuracy. I think I promised that. Right? The minimal part's covered with a big red dot. So let's do treadmill. And if this is all you would ever do, you're still going to impress somebody. My kid was not impressed. All right, so what is this thing called? This is the one, the big one, motion dash treadmill. All right, so now we could go for hours and I could just keep making odd objects and doing this. But I'm a soups. That is the wrong thing. Now someone's going to get upset about my equal signs not having spaces, right?
Upset by inconsistency.
I gotta add a little bit of dissonance here so that I want everyone to have something to say. If you can't think of any questions, you can look at my code, you'll think of 100 awful things to say.
This isn't going to make it through peer review.
But it could make it to production. You know that. This is my MVP. That's it.
But will it be long-term supported?
Oh, absolutely. It'll be supported as long as you work there. And as long as your friend who you got the job, that poor bastard's going to be there when this all hits. All right, whoa, what's happening? Email, money. Hey, all right. I wish that were all. So you can do this, and how do you get this anywhere? What do you do with it when you're getting it done? Well, what we can do, we can clean up these lines. We can select all these thingies and using magic Inkscape tricks that I'm not going to teach you. We'll pretend they're gone away. If we refresh this, what should happen? Oh, look at that. You don't see the lines. You can't see the rigging. It all happens, right? Then we want to move stuff around. We can take the money, and there's a little button here that no one can see, not even me. Not with my bifocals, but I'm telling you it's there. You push the money away, hide the email. We get a little more, what do we call it? Iterating when we get progressively less awful. All right. Hey. Oh. Almost there. But at this point, we could get into a long discussion about Z-order and layering, and I could show you some horrible dialogues that you won't remember. Right? I'd rather leave you with something nicer, so we'll move on to some more things. And I'll take questions, maybe, and I'll try and gauge your mood. But I have Asperger's, so it's going to be terrible. All right, I don't know. Let me show you what we'll do next. We'll show you next how you might iterate on that, right? Let's assume that's not the one. Where's my... all right. Now, let's open this sucker up. Piggy treadmill. I should say customer treadmill, but you're seeing the skunk works here, I guess. Is that what they call it? Where all the embarrassing variable names happen that you're supposed to change? Anyone ever have that happen? Me neither. All right, let's make sure we're good. So now let's say we want to show a close-up of what happens. We want to see the pig being happy on this treadmill. You can make another document, do the same kind of thing. And this time the piggy, oh, this will work great. This time the piggy has some legs, right? We can, let's see if my keyboard shortcuts. Today when I did my keyboard shortcut, I deleted my files because I have all kinds of great automation that only I understand. Does anyone else have that? Anyone else have spouses or loved ones who can't use their computers because the hotkeys are just going to create wreckage? All right. We don't have to talk about the pain that causes at home. Okay, so in this case, we have a pig. We've named his eyeballs. We've named his legs. Take for granted that they're done that way. We just want to show him successfully walking the treadmill, right? Look at that. Pro animation right there, right? So we can iterate on that a little bit without doing a whole lot more coding. I have something called walk speed. Let's make him walk a little faster. All right. We want to be careful. Pigs have a maximum speed, I understand. Right? I don't know much about pigs. Any animologists? No. We're in rural country. Okay, he's pretty safe. If we make it too fast, we want to probably engage the run fast mechanism to make sure he's going to run all right. Let's make sure he can run properly. Cross my fingers. It's going to happen when he runs very fast. Oh, this is where iteration goes to die. So now I've taught you how to animate something that will get you in trouble at work, or it will actually give you a hobby to have at home when you're looking for work. And I encourage you to make your portfolios, and what I'll also show you. If you're stuck, anyone stuck with Confluence or another wiki at work? Yep. All right, you don't have to raise your hand. You're weak from doing whatever you have to do in Confluence to make it work. Well, unfortunately, we have Confluence, and I had to use something to capture these animations. If I type the word lice, something good should happen. Okay. Something awful could happen too. I do a very low-tech way of capturing these. I'll actually capture these as animated GIFs, which are great because those things are like lousy. You can put them anywhere. They're filthy, dirty animals you can throw all over the place. So I stick these all over Confluence and enhance my coworkers' understanding of what I do. Now, we still have some time. Terrific. All right, we'll talk a little more about what I've done here. I'll wait for the questions to know what you actually want to know, because there's so many things that can happen. Oh, let's look at some examples of some stuff that I've done and what's possible with this terrible method of animating, which is accessible to most people, I think. Talk about iteration again. I sat up last night at 11 o'clock trying to make this perfect. I tried to outline the entire shipping logistics system. I won't say if I cried or not, but maybe a little. I think it was the heating system. It's kind of dry in my house. But when you first start, getting something on the screen is better than getting nothing on the screen. This is an illustration of our remote configuration system. Now, I don't think this counts as company anything for proprietary because you'd have to know what the octopus was. I'm not sure I know what the octopus is. This is a problem with this technique. People encourage me to use words, all right? But maybe a little higher fidelity, right? Something's going to our apps. I don't know what. Looks like a gear. This could be anybody's hotel system with an H, right? Hampton? No, is that us? Oh, it is us. Never mind. But we get progressively better. I'm not sure why I stuck with that looks kind of sinister. All right, I thought that would look like a gear. My wife says there's a movie where someone has an eyelash just like that.
Clockwork Orange?
Yeah, there we go. All right, well, this slide's coming out next time. So I think that's why I removed it. She might have asked me what's wrong with me, and I didn't have time. But progressively, we have more things spinning around, and eventually, is this going to do it? Maybe it's the next one. Oh yeah, this one does it. Things spin, all right? One thing you'll notice when you do this, you'll spend hours trying to get things to look just right. You could actually just make it move, but you're going to want to spin it. Right? and you're going to want to fly it somewhere. And you're going to realize just how restricted you are to this medium. But the only choice is to go to something horrific like After Effects. So you'll be stuck, but that's okay. I was trying to understand CI/CD. Anyone tell me what that means? I'm trying to get opinions, so I don't look stupid at work. That sounds about right. So I'm working on a system that people can type in some things and they go into our CI/CD and then go to the squid, pardon me. And then they migrate down to our apps. Again, I don't think this is a company secret. I'm not sure exactly what it means. But I'm in charge of these things. God help us. Go to the front desk if you need to get your room unlocked. Not because of the company, but because I work there now. So I was trying to illustrate what things happen when we switch our configuration to something that is GUI to something that is not GUI, right? Configuration as code, does that sound familiar?
Yep.
Yeah. Someone can explain that to me afterwards, but as I understand it, things fly into this foxy thing and then they fly out. Then I try to understand it on a deeper level. There's a developer that does something with some JSON, right? It goes into this thingy, and this is the part I'm not sure about, but it looks like something good happened. This might be called an MR. Anyone knows what that means? Ah, okay. Looks like there's a developer saying this looks pretty good. So I'm assuming that might be something that he has to look at. Ah, it's an approval of some sort, right? So this is how I comprehend how we do things at work. Whenever we get a new developer, they come to me and then they go to the other developers. Nonetheless, it's a way that I can keep track of things because I have a lot of projects. Mockups. This is great for mockups. Anyone use Figma? Yeah. So I take the stuff out of Figma and put it into Inkscape, which is, I think, a crime in some states. But I take all of our mock-up things, and I come up with concepts for apps, right? Like an alligator that can guard your bags. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? The kids all said no right away, but maybe you're all dreamers.
But they misbehave and turn it back into the bag.
I'm pretty sure that this might work in some countries. But you can animate this, and then sometimes the executives will be like, man, are you almost done? And we always answer yes, right? Because the prototype is always the production thing. I'm absolutely almost finished. In fact, I think our developers would love to animate our screens. They would not. Another concept I had, I tried to make some mock-ups so people would not think this is one of our things. We do not have a system where we can summon a monkey to open our doors. Nonetheless, there is an executive that I think believes me. I'm inclined to want to demo this. I'm not sure how I'll do it, but I try and explain things like feature modifiers and gating, right? The reason that you gate features, generally speaking, is so that something bad doesn't happen. And in this case, something good's happening, I think. Or is it? The kids said no. What do you say? Good or bad?
Well, it's good to search their rooms, right?
All right, so that's another sinister aspect I hadn't thought of. One of the children, not mine, said, I think that monkey's opening too many doors, Daddy. I said, quite possibly. It hasn't seen marketing yet, so we don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But we lock it up, right? So the idea is that we put features behind gates while we test them. Anyone have QA in their place?
Yeah.
Anyone don't have QA in their place? Anyone have QA but it's not like having QA? So I don't want to go too far. Okay, good. So as we talk about different features and what can go wrong, I wanted to illustrate why you should test things. 1 banana is good, 2 bananas might be okay. 3 bananas might incite fear because we don't know how many more are coming. So this is an animation that just illustrates what can happen if you don't test boundaries. I need to show this to our QA folks. Sometimes I use this to show people how things work, right? We had a feature that did something, I forget what. I think I just wanted to see if I could do trains and smoke there, so don't worry about that. But yeah, showing results, going places. And again, you just draw the stuff on the screen, draw the little red lines, and remember your variable names and your IIDs, right? Who helped me with that? I'll have a prize next time I give this, and I'll think of you when I give it to someone else. Talk about how things work. I don't know why I put sometimes there. We'll scratch that from the video, but let's see if the door opens. Yes. All right. Now this is, you'd think this would be pretty obvious, but we have Confluence pages that make this seem incredibly complicated. We have some folks that have trouble getting to the point. So I show a picture. trying to figure out that what this thing does is to unlock a door, and Confluence is 10 pages. Anyone have Confluence like that? Yeah. I hear the sighing, so I'm sorry, you're in the same place I am. Also, ideas, I illustrate concepts. This is called Splash Panda. This is all done with GSAP in this animation in many hours. See clearly why this is needed, right? Anyone drop their phone in a toilet in a hotel? Well, now you can have a trained raccoon throwing it out of the toilet for you. We're still working out the bugs in this feature, and I still haven't gotten approval. But you show the right executive. More likely the wrong one. Okay, I will have brief resources, but now we'll switch ahead to questions. You may have many, you may be shocked, I don't know. Oops, I don't know why that's going there, but let's go ahead with that in the background, so it looks like I've done something meaningful. All right, anyone have any questions?
What was the software that you were using for like various aspects of this?
All right, so Inkscape to draw the pictures and to take pictures that I found. And I will post resources, I swear, but Google has a Noto emoji project where they have a ton of these SVG files, tons of pictures and colors that you can do. You can get that for free and draw that. But Inkscape is the key to drawing the canvas and things. You could probably use, I don't know, I think open source wise, that's the one. You could use Affinity Designer, I think that's the other SVG thing that I use that's paid. If you want to use the Adobe stuff, you can go to a different conference, but that's also fairly, Inkscape's fairly straightforward. We use it for a lot of stuff. Anyone have a Cricut machine? Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Inkscape has a way to make you sorry you bought the Cricut machine and want to do your own patterns. Otherwise, it's GSAP. There's free libraries you can use in the CDN, GSAP. Otherwise, just HTML and a little bit of JavaScript. Just a little bit, right? Just the part that I changed. Because I will, of course, post my libraries and functions. I just can't say, I'm going to post this after the conference, I swear. And you should have just fiddled with that. And then I use something called LiceCap. But there are many capture things where you can convert screen recordings to no, I'm not going to. How do you say GIF?
Yes.
All right. And anyone disagree? Do you have time for a fight? All right. The little animated things, right? So I hate to give technology names because I'm sure I'm going to get them wrong. So that's it. So Inkscape prepares the pictures. GSAP in your browser can animate them, or you can use CodePen. Anyone use CodePen? So what you can do there is just copy since SVGs are actually text format, believe it or not. I'm sure you all believe it because you're technology people, right? You all know what these acronyms are. But you can actually copy and paste your picture into one of the little panes in CodePen and play around with stuff. In fact, I think I had a CodePen where I was trying to do something. Which, don't look at my code. You guys already know how bad it is. I'll show you someone else's CodePen instead. You won't know. For example, I was playing with a pig. All right, and it looks really ominous, but really you just have to change a couple things, like I would say. And I'll share these out, of course. I just had him walking there, and then when I figured out how to make him walk, I brought him into my editor and figured out how to make him burn. That sounded terrible. The pig's okay, because when you hit F5, it comes back. Then it's okay. It's a cycle. Let's shift to a different kind of thing. What was I playing with? I was playing with a concept to show everyone how API keys timed out. I was going to make this really cool key and have it time out. But then it got really complicated. My friend, I guess he's a good friend, he said, man, that's a lot of code for someone that said this isn't a lot of code. I said, I guess you're right. And then I said, I can just write an abstraction function that'll just turn any key into a timer. And he laughed because he's right. But maybe one day you'll have a library where you can just take any key of any kind and make it a timer. That's the idea. But I often will sit and play around with this stuff and do the next widget for the next thing. But you don't have to go that far. All right, I've eaten up all your question time with way off the track. Right? All right, next.
How did you go from Inkscape to HTML?
Well, that's a great question. So Inkscape saves out the SVG files. Actually, I'll show you the. I'll wiggle my mouse a little bit. So I save stuff. I save the Inkscape files, the SVG files into a folder, and then how do I bring them into HTML? I'm not answering your question. I think that's what you're asking, right? That is a trick. I'll I'll show you that code. So this took me a while to figure out because I guess no one does this. God knows why. I don't know. So this is how I do it. Is this the way you're asking how I loaded code-wise, or conceptually how it works?
The paths, all of those
Okay.
that you define in Inkscape.
Right. Oh, sorry.
All of the resources, paths, and SVGs, because you all reference them with IDs.
Right.
Get them.
Okay. So that is I saved that canvas out into a single file. I only have one asset, and that has all the paths and all the objects in it. So that goes here, and that is well, actually what I showed you here. So I saved this file out with all the things in it, single file out to an SVG folder underneath my HTML folder, and then I have a chunk of JavaScript that loads the file. And as soon as it loads it, becomes part of the DOM. Is that right? I'm glad I have so many programmers here, right? So yeah, so it loads it that way. And I can probably struggle to...
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
Just then glue them together.
Yeah.
You're inlining it in the HTML rather than linking to a file.
I'm loading it somehow? Look, I'm just an analyst, man. I just run the code. Now, I'm sure no one uses code from other places without knowing how it works, right? No one would ever do that. This is what it does. Clearly, it does a fetch. That's the verb. So it loads it from a URL, which is why you have to have a little web server running in your machine. There's different ways to do it, but apparently some of the ways if you do it, you can't access the little thingies on it.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was a challenge I remember having and feverishly struggling with until I found that right code thing. Incidentally, you can also have AI help you with this stuff, but it's going to be a swear fest one way or another. But that's how I got the basic knowledge of just enough to show you that it works, but not enough to explain how it works. So that's the price there. Any other questions? I know we're cutting close to lunch, so I'm not going to blame you if you got to rush out. All right. Thank you, everybody.